Hey, good evening, guys. It's Dr. Florestan with drnightclass.com. We are here for another episode of Lamp Talk. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're here with Dr. Alexandra Winsky, right? She is PGY1 internal medicine. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming. All right, so let's just jump right into it if you don't mind. For our first question, how did you navigate the heavy burdens of balancing academic demands with your personal well-being?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I tried to find things that were hobbies that I was really interested in and continue to pursue them. I think a lot of times, especially in your first couple years of medical school, you're really focused on trying to get good grades and you kind of live, breathe, eat medicine. But it's super important that you don't lose yourself in the process. And so for me, that meant, I found a really good friend that I made there in Kirksville, Missouri, where I went to medical school, which was this super small town. But my friend Jordan and I, we would study together. We were really big into making sure we still went to the gym to take care of our physical health. We alternated cooking dinners together, and then we would alternate notes for the day. So we would take each lecture that we had throughout the day and summarize it into one page. And so she and I kind of would divide and conquer. And so I think a big part of it was having that support system there in a small town where I knew no one else. I made a really good friend. But then also kind of just keeping up with things that I enjoyed, going to the gym. She adopted a dog, so we'd take her dogs to the dog park or go on walks. And
Right.
so just the little things that I find pleasure in every day, I tried to continue to do while I was there, along with like having a good support system and in my classmates.
Right. And it sounds really wonderful how you were able to maintain your integrity through like a friendship that was, in parallel going through this journey with you, another classmate. That's really wonderful. And you're able to outsource or escape to those personal hobbies of working out. It's pretty wonderful. And Dr. Winsky, there's plenty of data out there that's saying that working out and endorphins. And did you feel that working out ultimately improved your focus with your reading, your studies, and your exam prep?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of times it's hard because you're like, I can't take out an hour right now because I really need to study. But I
Right.
felt that taking that hour out actually made me more efficient and focused when it came to studying.
Right.
So just taking an hour to step away from the books and
Mhm.
get away from all of the medical talk and really kind of just focus in on something that I enjoyed, clear my mind, get those endorphins going,
Right.
really allowed me to be a better student ultimately in the long run rather than just continuing to cram, cram, cram. I think kind of along those same lines is sleep.
Mhm. Mhm.
I know when it would come to like finals time, I'd see people sleeping in the library on the ground. And
Right.
as much as I can understand everyone has their own styles and their own ways, I think it's also, you have to take care of yourself too if you ultimately want to be the best version of yourself. And so
Right.
allowing yourself to get at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night, even when you're studying super hard, is really important. My dad used to always say when I was studying before big tests, and it was like midnight or 1 in the morning, he's like, if you don't know it now, you're not going to know it. And it's kind
Ah,
of like a harsh reality, but it is true. There's only so much you're going to learn in those couple of hours. It's really going to change your grade. So you might as well like go into that exam on a rested mind.
right. That's very well put. That's very well put. For our next question, what was the biggest disadvantage you felt you had compared to your medical student classmates?
So I think it's kind of a hard question because I think everyone comes from different backgrounds with different disadvantages, or they have things that they're stronger at or weaker at.
Mhm.
For me personally, I grew up in like a pretty well-off family. I was really close with my family. I have a twin brother who also went into medicine at the same time as me. But it kind of all fell apart when I was in the middle of medical school. My parents ended up getting divorced, and in return, it took a huge financial burden on our family. And so
Right. right,
actually ended up, working and driving it for DoorDash in medical school, just kind of help not have so much of that financial burden.
right.
Um, but I don't know that it's a disadvantage. It's just a different path or lifestyle because at the end of the day, wouldn't change it. I think it really made me more resilient.
Mm,
I don't know. I kind of like to think that my motto through medical school was resiliency because, as you're aware, I started out in a Caribbean medical school and found out it wasn't a good fit for me. And so I came back to the United States and dropped out of medical school, went and pursued a master's degree, and then ended up reapplying to medical school within the United States, which at
mm,
a school that it ended up just being a better fit. And so for me, I kind of just had like one hurdle after another getting to medical school and getting through medical school. And um, then when I went to take my step exam, it was
mm.
canceled. There was just a sign on the door that says canceled. And so
Wow, wow,
that was like
wow.
a huge bummer and burden. And
Right,
I ended up taking it like 6 weeks later in the middle of an ICU rotation. And my score wasn't at all where I wanted it to be because I was
right.
not still keeping up with doing daily questions. And so
Sure.
I kind of just felt like it, throughout medical school, I just kept feeling like, why me? Like it just kept hitting me over and over and over again. But
Right,
I also wouldn't change it because it led me to where I'm at today. And I couldn't be happier with the decision that I made. I feel like I'm in the right spot. And so
mm, right,
I am a big believer of things kind of pan out how they're meant to be. And
right,
so
right,
I wouldn't even call it a disadvantage, although there were times where I was envious of classmates that, maybe had
mhm,
family in medicine and they just walked right into a school and their parents were
sure,
paying for their education. And
sure.
I didn't have those same, I guess, perks, but
Yeah.
also wouldn't change it either.
Right, right, right. And that's, I really appreciate you, sharing that story with us. And it's a very sensitive topic that you're sharing for our viewers. And, I just know that, that's really going to go a long way to know that you're able to overcome those hurdles. And, right now, and as always, we've seen in medical school, the setbacks of, having to repeat a semester for being 1 point short and
Hmm.
things of that nature. But, I think you are right with that word for resiliency, to be that set far back, whether it's the family dynamics or financially or, all these hurdles you overwent or not being able to study because you're on a heavy rotation like ICU. I think it has brilliance built into it itself, and it's amazing you're able to get through all of that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
The next question is name a skill that you had to acquire as a medical student that did not come easy.
I think a skill that it kind of goes hand in hand with what we were talking about,
Mhm.
that sense of resiliency, but also kind of okay with accepting failure.
Right,
I think that is something that almost every medical student struggles with. At least for me, when I was in medical school, I came in pretty much a straight A student, got graduated valedictorian in high school, graduated with honors in college. And so coming into medical school, you kind of feel like you're on top of the world. Like school comes, not that it comes easy, but that you feel like you're good at school,
right,
and you have the ability to excel in school. And so, I my first semester I hit histology and it was an eye-opening experience. It was a really difficult class for me to kind of just overcome. And I
right,
think on my first exam I got, I don't know, like a 58 or 60%, which is not at all something that I was used to. And so
right,
um it's eye-opening learning to accept failure and recognizing the fact that everyone around you is used to being at the top of their class,
right,
being straight A. You really have the cream of the crop that you're surrounded with, and
right,
you're no longer just like this all-star, because so is
right,
everyone else. And so it can be hard to kind of find your sense of identity in
mhm,
those moments because you're trying to stand out in a sea full of really incredible human beings. And so I think just really focusing in on your individual aspects that make you unique and kind of just trying to polish those up and accept the fact that everyone still has their unique traits, even though they're all incredible people, is a hard skill to acquire and requires a lot of introspection and
Right.
self-reflection. And so
Right.
I think to anyone listening, I really encourage you to focus on the things that make you unique as a person and remind yourself of those daily.
Right. Right. And it's so well put. I was actually, the word at the tip of my tongue was acquiring self-reflection. And,
Mm-hmm.
it is a big thing. And I like the way you're phrasing it as well. Saying that I use with a lot of my students is, you're a star amongst the stars, and
Mm-hmm.
when you're a star on your own, you shine and light up the sky. But now you're amongst the stars, and you may not glow as brightly. I know it sounds kind of like Pixar corny-ish, but it's true.
That's true.
It's
Yeah.
it's true. So yeah, I appreciate it. And it is something that needs to be acquired, to self-appreciate, self-reflect, um, and not become kind of disoriented by the brilliant people around you.
Mhm.
All right. So last question here is, can you share a specific moment in residency that reinforced your passion for medicine and validated your decision to become a doctor?
Yeah, I think there's really kind of two moments that stand out. One during medical school, and then also one during residency. During medical school, I was, teetering back and forth. Do I want to do internal medicine or do I want to do pediatrics? I really
Right.
enjoy studying medicine on a broad scale. I love children, but I find that I ended up ultimately finding that it's really difficult seeing kids be sick all the time.
Right.
Not that it's not difficult seeing adults be sick, but it's different when adults can typically communicate their feelings versus a small
Sure.
child. But
Sure.
in the middle of medical school, I had a little kid come in during my pediatrics rotation, and the pediatrician that I worked with dealt with a lot of foster and adopted kids.
Right.
And so it was a little foster child that came in, and I got down on the ground and I was talking to her, and she just gave me the biggest hug.
Mm.
And her foster parents were like, we haven't seen her hug anyone. She's very walled off and guarded. And so
Right.
for
Right.
me, even now, it's like hard not to get emotional with that, because it's just that feeling of, maybe I can make a small difference in one person's life. And I think that's something that I try to remind myself on the hard days, because there are hard days in medical school and definitely during residency. But I think that, during residency, I kind of had another moment of like major reflection of, wow, this is like what I meant to do.
Right.
In my ER rotation, I had a lady that came in with a large vessel occlusion. We ended up having to air flight her to a level 1 trauma center nearby. And I just like stood there and walked her out on the tarmac and watched as the helicopter took her off. And that moment kind of hit me of like, that's someone's mom, that's someone's, wife, someone's best friend, someone's, cousin.
Right.
And I think sometimes it's really hard to recognize that in that moment. And I don't, you don't know how some of these people are going to turn out, especially when you go on to the next rotation or you're on to the next patient. But
Right. Right.
I think for me, just realizing the fact that you're still a human being is a big part of medicine. And it reminds me every day that it's okay to be human. It's okay to have feelings and emotions towards it. But that it can lead to some of the most rewarding and impactful experiences. And we are so fortunate that we have a job where every day you get to show up and make a difference in people's lives. And so even though I wasn't the one that went in and did the thrombectomy for the lady, it's like I still got the opportunity to triage her, take care of her, and get her the care that she needed. And so I think just, taking a moment to reflect at the end of the day, 5-10 minutes, and realize the impact that you're making on each individual person's life, and what a truly a blessing it is, the job that we have, because at the end of our life, we'll be able to see like just how many people we positively impacted. And I don't think there's any other profession that has that same ability at the end of the day to say that they had such a positive impact on so many lives.
And I want to brag on Dr. Winsky real quick. So what she did is being able to triage like that and not freeze up, not become a wallflower, but put her foot down and make an executive decision to seek advanced care for this patient, a resource that goes beyond her hospital and needs to take a helicopter to be flown out to a facility that can care for this patient. Now, that is very difficult to do in that hectic type of moment when things are so critical, to know that, the facility you're in right now, especially being new to that facility as a PGY1, that, this needs to happen quickly. And
Mhm.
I'm sure at that moment when that patient was flying out, you realized that, you did everything that, you could do to the best of your capacity before the patient flew out. You didn't miss the split window.
Mhm.
You were there, you were present, you're able to execute these things. And this is what's brilliant about Dr. Winsky here.
Mhm.
Um, it's moments like this to even be in the arena, to take a shot like that. It takes resilience. It really does. And, she's been a testimony to that, and she's proven it during this lamp talk.
Well, thank
The
you.
last thing, Dr. Winsky, if you don't mind, can you give some kind, encouraging words to our medical students out there?
Yeah, I think the days are hard and they're long, and there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road. I don't think any single person has one straight narrow path, and just remembering that try and handle the bumps with grace to the best of your ability, and also give yourself some grace. Like, it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to have a bad test, a bad score. It happens to not just me, but to everyone else. And so allow yourself to have a little bit of that grace, and know that one test score doesn't define you as a human being. One failed exam, or even, God forbid, some failed class or a failed semester or whatever it may be, it really truly does not define you as a person. And so just keep chugging along, because the path at the end, it is so worth it, just to have that sense of fulfillment every single day. So kind of just keep that end in sight, and know that it will all be worth it in the end.
Right, right, right. Well, thanks for coming tonight, Dr. Winsky. And for the viewers, thanks you for joining us for another episode of Lamp Talk with Dr. Night Class. Have a good evening.
Thank you.